Dear students, welcome to online biology classes. So today we are going to be seeing about the next topic and last topic of the nervous system, that is reflex action. So reflex action is nothing but it is any response that occur automatically without a consequence. That is each and every type of reaction they have the opposite reaction, and by the same time we are going to be prevent ourselves. For example, if someone pricks on our hand with the help of needle, what we are doing? Suddenly we are withdraw our hand to preventing the paining of the particular needle. So it is a kind of reflection. Then the reflex is any response that occurs automatically without a consequence. That means all type of response we are done some kind of prevention with the automatic process. Then the reflexes are two type. One is called simple or basic reflexes. These reflexes are inbuilt and unrelated the response. The many of these action we are perform in our body day to day life are the simple reflexes. That means it is done some kind of work which is done by means of our body. For example, the winging of the eyes when any dust particles enter. So what we are doing? Suddenly we are close our lids and preventing the entry of the dust particles. And sneezing, at the time of sneezing we cannot be controlled. Then the coughing, the etc. We perform this action without thinking. It is a we cannot be imaginate. So the sneezing it will be comes 12:30 p.m. or the cough it will be comes out at 10:30 a.m. like that. We cannot be justified. It is automatically takes place any time of our body condition. That is called a simple or basic reflex. Then a second type of reflex that is called acquired. That is called an acquired reflexes. So the acquired reflexes are the reflexes are resulted in the practice and learning. So I will give you one diagram. So which is given for the psychological concept of the reflexes. Psychological concept of the reflexes. So first one, what we are going to be seeing the food. So the dog, what they are doing, they are seeing this bone. What it will be happen? Suddenly the dog was secreting the saliva. Then next day, what they are doing? They again they are call upon the dog. Then what they are done? They are done in the belling process. That time the dog cannot be secreting any kind of saliva from the tank. Then continuously they are doing after some kind of the practicing. First they are ringing the bell, then they are showing the bone. Automatically the sound it will be comes out, the saliva is secreted from the dog. Then for it is going on with some time. After sometimes once the bell sound is heard by the dog, the suddenly the saliva is secreted by the salivary gland. That is called conditioned. So we are going to be done some kind of practicing. Then from your textbook they are giving some kind of example. The playing harmonium by the striking a particular key on seeing the music note is an example of conditioned reflexes. It is a 2 mark question which require a conscious of training effort. So we are playing the harmonium, then by means each and every type of key they are producing different kinds of sound. The next one, so most of the reflex actions are monitored and controlled by the spinal cord, hence also called a spinal reflexes. So I will give you one example from here. The most of the reflex action, so almost many kinds of the body action which is controlled by the spinal cord, because which consists of the longest part of the central nervous system, which is merged with many types of peripheral nerve and autonomic nerve, so which is controlled by all the activities of the body. Hence this kind of action is known as a spinal reflexes. So from this diagram we are going to be seeing one image. What is that? So there will be a small pin is punched with your leg. What would be happen? The particular kind of signal which is sensed by the sensory organ which is located in our body, they are carry the impulse in the form of electrical substance, in the form of chemical reaction. They are reach on with the spinal cord through the central nervous system. Then what it will be happen? The spinal cord which was sensed and they are realized and detect the reaction. Then the information is passed on with the motor neuron. The motor neuron which is carried the opposite reaction and which are reached with the muscle fibers. What we are doing? Suddenly we can done some kind of opposite reaction. We are stand up or we are run away from the particular kind of things. The next one, so we are seeing about the another type of process. The another type of process that is called an reflex arc. What is that? The pathway is taken by the nerve impulse to accomplish the reflex action is called a reflex arc. That is the many kind of reflex, the many kind of nerve impulse they are carrying in the one particular place. So that means many kind of nerve cell they are taking different kinds of action into the one particular place, that is called an accomplish. The accomplished reaction is called an reflex arc. So here we are seeing that the diagram we are touching that hot plate or any type of this wound creating substance which is carried by the impulse into the spinal cord and the brain. Suddenly we are withdraw our hand, then it is one of the detailed question. So the someone pricks on your hand with the help of needle, explain the situations, book back question. So which is consist of 5 different types of process. When we touch the very hot pan, so they are given in the textbook with the hot pan, the stimulus, the heat which is sensed by the receptor is called a heat receptor. So we are we are already known from the introduction of nervous system, the light, heat, temperature, etc. The heat which is sensed by the heat receptor or thermoreceptor. So thermoreceptor is one of the important one more question which is available on the hand. The stimulus, what type of stimulus here? It is a heat. It is in turn and trigger into the impulse to the sensory organ. So what they are doing? The sensory organ skin, they are absorb the signal and which is pass on with the sensory neuron. Then second one, the sensory neuron transmit or convey the message to the spinal cord. So the first central nervous system organ, that is called spinal cord, what they are doing? The sensory organ transmit the signal into the spinal cord, which is explained by this diagram. Then third point, what would be happen? The spinal cord interrupts the stimulus and impulse passed into the relay neuron, in turn transmit into the motor neuron. Then the sensory neuron signal is passed on with the motor neuron. Then point number 4, the motor neuron carry the command from the spinal cord to our arm. So what will be happen? The motor neuron which is carried the signal. So some kind of damage is takes place on your hand. So run away like that. The signal is passed on to our arm. The muscles in our arm is contract and withdraw our hand immediately from the pan. So what they are doing? So suddenly we are withdraw our hand. It will not takes place with many times. It will not happen with 5 minutes or 10 minutes. The fraction of second, everything it will be takes place. So we are already known that the fraction of second, our nerve cell which will transmit the nerve impulse with 10,000 times. The next one, so this is the example, the muscle is an effector organ which has the respond to the heat. So we will study the higher classes, know the neural impulse that triggers in this muscular movement. From the higher classes we have studied about how the movement is takes place on the muscle in the class. Then the next type of the human nervous system, we are already known that the human nervous system which consists of 3 types: central nervous system, peripheral nervous system and autonomic nervous system. So we are already studied about the central nervous system. The central nervous system which consists of 2 type of major organ, one is called brain and another one is called spinal cord. So according to this criteria we are seeing about the second system, the second nervous system of the human being, that is called a peripheral nervous system. So the peripheral nervous system is formed by the nerves arising from the brain and spinal cord. So the millions of nerves which is arised from the brain and spinal cord, they are connected with the various parts of the body. So that is called a peripheral nervous system. So here 2 different types of nerves are available. One is called cranial nerves, another one is called spinal nerves. So we are already known that what is cranial and what is spinal. The nerves arised from the brain is called cranial nerves. So the brain is located on the cranial cavity. So because of the reason is a brain. So the nerve which is arised from the brain is called cranial nerves. So the nerve arising from the spinal cord are called spinal nerves. So the nerve which is arised from the brain, that is called cranial nerves. The nerve which is arised from the spinal cord is called spinal nerves. So which is shown from this diagram. The brain, from brain to the nerve, they are called cranial nerve. Then spinal cord, the spinal cord to nerve is called spinal nerve. Both nerve is called a peripheral nervous system. Then we are seeing about another one important topic, the peripheral nervous system. So first one is called cranial nerves. So in the man, there are 12 pair of cranial nerves are available. So how many pair of cranial nerves are available? 12 pair. It is a book back one mark question. It may be asked from the examination. So 12 pair of cranial nerves are available. Some of the cranial nerves are sensory. So not some of them, most of the cranial nerves, they are done in the process of sensory process. So they are in the form of optic nerve, the inverse of eyes. Then some of the motor nerves which help to the rotation of the eyeball. So we are seeing one of the sense organ which is located on our body, that is called eye. So it is a type of sensory organ. What they are doing, so they are rotating. So we are seeing many kind of object, not only in the single dimension. So the multi dimension we are seeing that object, that is called a rotation of the eyeball. It also inverts this eye muscle. Then muscles is of iris and tear gland. So what they are doing, so they are done some kind of process in the iris and muscle as a tears gland. So from this diagram, which is not given from your textbook, I will show you that the various types of the cranial nerves, which is having a 12 pair, the 12 different types of cranial nerve list is given. So just we can see that what are the cranial nerves are available in our body. It may be asked from the NEET examination or in your higher studies. So keep it on your mind. Just to go through this different types of nerve cell. Then here I will show you that important point, what the cranial nerves which was controlled with the various activities of the body. Various activities of the body which is controlled by the cranial nerves. Then what are the action which is controlled by the cranial nerves, which is given in the form of diagrammatical representation. The next one we are seeing about the another one important topic, that is called spinal nerves. So there are 31 pair of spinal nerves are available. 31 pair of spinal nerves are available. They are divided into 5 divisions. This also not given in your textbook. Just we are going to be known. Then each spinal nerve has the dorsal sensory root and ventral motor root. So dorsal side they are having a sensory region, and ventral side they are having a motor, effector and affector regions are present. So what are the 5 different types of spinal nerves? So 8 pair of cranial spinal nerves, that is called, which is just they are connected with the brain. Then 12 pair of thoracic spinal nerves. So from the thoracic region, so we are having a 2 region, abdominal region and a thoracic region, from neck to diaphragm, that is called thoracic region. Then 5 pair of the lumbar spinal nerves, which is end of this region. Then 5 pair of scrotal spinal nerves and 1 pair of coccus spinal nerves are available. So totally they are in the form of 31 different types of spinal nerves. So what are the types are available, where they are located is seen in this diagram. This also not given in your textbook, which is used for your higher studies. Then direction of the impulse in the dorsal spinal root towards the spinal cord, and the ventral spinal root away from the spinal cord. So we are known very well, dorsal side and ventral side. The dorsal side which is provide the signal and which is reach on with the ventral side. Then the last topic of this lesson, that is autonomic nervous system. So I already told you central nervous system, peripheral nervous system. Then this is the autonomic nervous system. So the autonomic nervous system is also called an vessel or nervous system of regulate the functions of internal vessel organs our body through these two antagonistic components, sympathetic and parasympathetic system. So it is a opposite reaction. One is a contraction, another one is relaxation. For example, we are inhaling the air, what will be happen? So the oxygen is enter, so lungs it will be done some kind of activities. Then exhaling, it is in the form of free position. The lungs they are comes out into the normal position, like that. The opposite reaction behind this autonomic nervous system. Then they enable the body perform the rapid and specific vessel activities in order to maintain the steady state. That means the first one, the vessel organ, that means the internal organ. So the many types of internal organs are available in our body, and they are done different kinds of function. So it controls involuntary function and vessel organs. Involuntary function, that means it is in the form of unstable function. They don't like that is called an involuntary functions. Then next one, involuntary functions. So these two process which is controlled by the sympathetic and parasympathetic action, which is controlled by the autonomic nervous system. So again I told you, the autonomic nervous system which is controlled by the vessel organ. Vessel organ is nothing but it is in the form of internal organs. The many type of internal organs are available. The diagram which shows that various types of internal organ, then some of the process which is done by the voluntary action, and some of the process they are not done by voluntary action. They are called an involuntary action. Thank you. From the continuation of this lesson, we are seeing about some kind of the reflex action. We are touching the hot plate. What will be happen? The signal which is passed on with the spinal cord through the brain, again the signal which is getting by the motor neuron, then suddenly we are withdraw our hand. It is a kind of reaction. Then this is the another type of reaction which is done by autonomic nervous system and peripheral nervous system. The various types of sensory organ, they are gathering the signal and which is passed on by the sensory nerve cell to the spinal cord and brain. So depending upon this reaction, our brain and spinal cord act and give some kind of command. Depending upon the command, our body cells they are get triggers and they are done different types of functions. Then the last thing, that is the autonomic nervous system which is done some kind of sympathetic action, the various types of organ and the signal which is provided by the spinal cord, which is depending upon the signal, our internal organs they are done in the process of voluntary and involuntary action. Voluntary and involuntary action, so which is controlled by sympathetic and parasympathetic action. Sympathetic and parasympathetic action. So this action which is controlled only in the internal organ, only in the internal organ. So up to this we are successfully completing the nervous system. So now I am going to be discussed about some of the question which maybe comes in your examination. So first one, we are known about what is stimulus. What is stimulus or define stimulus? We are already known the introduction point of view, which is change the environmental condition. We are known. Then another two more question, name the parts of the hindbrain. So what are the parts which is given by the hindbrain? Then the structure involved production of brain. That means we are write down about the meninges. Give the example of conditionated reflexes. We have seen this video, conditionated reflexes. Then which is act as a link between the nervous system and endocrine system. We are known very well what are the things which is done by these two systems. Then next one, we are seeing about the reflex arc. So that is today we are going to be seeing about a reflex arc. These are the things are seen from this lesson. Then two things, voluntary and involuntary action, modulated, non-modulated differences also given. The long answer they may be asked from the neat labeled diagram of structure of neuron, illustrate the structure and functions of brain. Then someone pricks on your hand. Today I am going to be say that one. Then the structure of brain, how the nerve impulse are transmitted from one neuron to next neuron, the neurotransmitter. Then the last two question, classify the neuron based on the structure. That means we are write down unipolar neuron, bipolar neuron and a multipolar neuron. These are the things are given from your textbook. So thank you for the continuous cooperation from this nervous system lesson. Thank you. We will meet once again. Thank you very much.